Let me tell you something that no one wants to say out loud, but every man needs to hear. Modern women are at war with masculinity. Not because masculinity is harmful, but because deep down they need it, crave it, but can't control it. So what do? They label it toxic. They shame you. They try to mold you into something more emotionally available, more soft, more safe. Translation: more manageable, more obedient, more feminine. But here's the twist. They don't actually want that soft version of you. They'll beg for your vulnerability, your sensitivity, your gentleness. But when push comes to shove, they still melt for the man who leads with strength, speaks with conviction, and commands respect when he walks into a room. Let's break it down, 7 cold-blooded truths about why she calls masculine men toxic, but secretly can't stay away from them. Point 1. She fears what she can't control. The modern woman has been conditioned to believe she must be in control of everything: her career, her emotions, her household, and yes, even her man. When a man shows true masculine energy, he sets boundaries, speaks without asking for approval, and leads without apologizing. It triggers something primal in her. Not fear of harm, but fear of submission. Because her entire life, she's been told submission is weakness. And masculine men, they demand respect, not compliance. That scares her. So rather than admit she's drawn to a man she can't dominate, she flips the script. You're controlling. You're arrogant. You're toxic. But guess what? When she's alone with her thoughts, scrolling through the Instagram of the guy she couldn't lock down, she's not fantasizing about the passive nice guy who always asks for her permission. She's thinking about the one who made her feel safe by never asking what she wanted for dinner. He just ordered and led. She'll never admit it. But the man she calls toxic, that's the man she wishes would text her back. Point 2. She equates masculinity with patriarchy, and that's the real problem. Modern feminism has done a number on this generation. It taught women that anything male-led is oppressive. So when a man steps into a room and owns his presence, not with violence, but with pure masculine authority, she's already been programmed to reject it. He doesn't have to raise his voice. He doesn't have to lift a finger. But if he's confident, stoic, and unbothered, it registers in her system as a threat. Not because he's dangerous, but because he reminds her of something ancient, the order of nature. And that's what she can't handle. See, deep down, women crave structure, just like men crave freedom. They crave the calm dominance of a man who doesn't beg to be liked. But her indoctrination has confused her craving with weakness. So instead of surrendering to that masculine order, she wages war on it. That's why she'll call a man toxic just for being a man. Not abusive, not manipulative, just unmoved. She'll date him for 6 months, enjoy every second of his leadership, and then leave him with a bitter caption. I had to walk away from a toxic dynamic to find myself. No, baby. You walked away because you couldn't run the show. Point 3. Masculinity holds up a mirror, and she hates what she sees. Here's the ugliest truth of them all. A masculine man doesn't just make her feel feminine. He makes her face herself. A real man doesn't tolerate disrespect. He won't play emotional games. He doesn't validate bad behavior. And he doesn't chase after silence. So when a masculine man enters her life, she realizes something. All the manipulation, all the drama, all the performative self-love, none of it works on him. He's not impressed by your degree. He doesn't care how many followers you have. He doesn't flinch when you threaten to leave. He just says there's a door. That's what makes him toxic in her eyes. Because he forces her to grow up, to be accountable, to be disciplined, to be honest. And in a culture that celebrates emotional impulsivity and villainizes standards, the man with backbone becomes a villain. But watch what happens. She dates a nice guy after him, one who agrees with everything she says, one who cries on the first date, lets her lead, lets her talk over him. 6 months later, she's out cheating on him with a man just like the one she called toxic. Because at the end of the day, respect beats comfort. And masculine men demand respect. Point 4. She hates that masculine men hold standards because it means she has to step up. Here's a truth women don't want broadcast. What they often label toxic masculinity is just a man with non-negotiable standards. a man who won't tolerate disrespect, a man who expects femininity in return for protection and provision, but that terrifies her because it forces accountability. A masculine man doesn't play into her manipulations. He won't chase a woman who treats him like a backup plan. He'll walk away, quietly, without drama. That's why he's labeled controlling for simply saying, I don't date women who party every weekend, or I expect loyalty, not Instagram thirst traps. The modern woman wants to protect her, but also wants the freedom to behave like she's single. She wants the perks of a provider without the price of submission. That's not independence. That's entitlement in stilettos. You'll hear her say, real men accept women as they are. No, real men choose women who align with their values. That's what she fears. She fears losing access to masculine men unless she changes. So, instead, she shames masculinity because that's easier than becoming a woman worthy of it. Point 5. She doesn't actually want equality. She wants power without responsibility. Let's stop playing games. Modern feminism wasn't about equality. It mutated into privilege without accountability. A masculine man sees through this. He notices the double standards. She wants him to pay the bills, plan the dates, protect her in danger, but still claims she's independent. Equality? Nah. She doesn't want a 50-50 partnership. She wants 100% of the benefits with 0% of the obligations. She calls it empowerment. But a masculine man calls it what it is, manipulation. She'll cry, why can't I be strong and still be taken care of? But then belittles men who express emotions or set boundaries. She's allowed to be vulnerable, but if you are, you're weak. She gets to be demanding, but you're insecure. It's not equality. It's an emotional pyramid scheme where men keep investing and women keep withdrawing without deposits. And when a man calls this out, he's toxic. He's bitter. But here's the truth. Modern women don't want partnership. They want power. They want dominance disguised as progress. Point 6. She calls masculinity toxic because it doesn't submit to her control. Let's be real. A woman can't control a masculine man, and that drives her crazy. You don't simp. You don't beg. You don't tolerate disrespect. You are the storm, not some emotional spun for her tantrums. So what does she do? She pathologizes your strength. She tries to turn your assertiveness into a flaw. If you speak with authority, you're arrogant. If you don't bend to her emotional swings, you're cold. If you lead, you're misogynistic. But deep down, she's craving your leadership, craving your decisiveness. Her body responds to dominance. Her ego doesn't. The reason she labels you toxic isn't because you are, but because she can't manipulate you. You don't cater to her chaos. And worse, you expose it. Masculine men shine a light on the dysfunction women try to hide, so they silence you with shame. But here's the real kicker. While she bashes you publicly, she dreams about you privately, fantasizes about a man who can put her in her place, not with violence, but with masculine certainty. She doesn't want to lead. She wants to surrender, but only to a man she respects. And if you're masculine, you're that man. Point 7. She will publicly shame masculine men, but privately chase them. This is a final red pill. What women say they want and what they actually chase are two different things. In public, they post men are trash memes, bash masculinity, and praise soft, submissive guys. But behind closed doors, they're texting the same men they call toxic. The man who takes charge. The man who doesn't simp. The man who tells her no. You'll hear her on TikTok calling for emotional availability. Then she ghosts a nice guy who texts her good morning. She says she wants a man to listen, but loses her mind when a masculine man commands attention without raising his voice. Because attraction isn't logical. It's primal. Her biology still responds to testosterone, not tears. Strength, not softness. Stability, not submissiveness. So why the disconnect? Because admitting she craves masculinity would force her to confront how far she's drifted from femininity. It would expose that her independence is a mask, and that deep down, she wants a man who leads. She'll cancel you on Twitter, but call you at 2 a.m. She'll mock you in public, but fantasize about you in silence. Masculine men are hated out loud, but desired in whispers. If this hit a nerve, it was meant to. Because this truth is what too many men never hear until it's too late. Until they've been drained, manipulated, and discarded for simply being masculine. Don't let this truth die in silence. Subscribe, like, comment, and share with brothers and sons who need this truth. You're not toxic. You're just unshakable. And that makes you dangerous to a world that profits off weak men. Welcome to Woman Unmasked.